And one of the themes of my life is this, and that's a phrase you've heard me say many times, which is trust God and leap. I think the shorthand for the Christian life are those four words: trust God and leap. Not trust God and sit, not trust God and study, not trust God and think, not trust God and vociferate, but leap.
We didn't go to Harvard, so we don't know what that word means.
Don't ask me to spell what you just said.
I couldn't try to spell either. So trust Him and leap. And so I've tried to model that because I think it's the right way to live as a Christian. Trusting Him, not just leaping for the sake of leaping, not leaping for the thrill of leaping, but leaping because it will honor God, and it's what I think He wants me to do. So one of the more humorous stories that I want to tell you, this sort of leap thing was in me even before I was a Christian. I had an opportunity to apply for graduate school, and so I applied to the 10 best business schools in the country, according to the ratings at the time. And one of those was Harvard, which I had always aspired to go there. I had, fantasies of going there and studying. Where I grew up in Michigan, a lot of kids went east to boarding schools in high school and went to east to go to college, and went to Ivy League schools and that sort of thing. I went to Purdue, as I said. The problem was I am unashamedly the dumbest engineer to have ever graduated from Purdue. And I mean that. I've got the transcript to prove it. So for a guy with a profoundly pedestrian GPA to think he's going to go to Harvard for business school was quite astounding. So I begged my parents to let me go out and do a campus interview with the admissions department. So I went into the admissions office. I met with this guy named Dean Curry, and he looked at my my transcript, and he looked down at the transcript, he looked up at me, looked back down at the transcript, he goes, "We don't take your kind here." And it just bugged me. And I said, well, if you want to fill your class with a bunch of eggheads who've never led anything and never started anything and never run anything, have at it. Because in my resume, I'd started a business and ran it successfully while I was in college, and I was the president of the leadership honorary at Purdue, and I'd done a lot of campus leadership things and thought I had something to contribute in that way. So the shocking thing was, months later, I get this letter saying that I've been admitted. And I knew it was a mistake. The guy said, "We don't take your kind." And he did nothing in that interview to imply any pivot on his part, right? In his opinion of this blowhard from Indiana,
A friend is playing a bad joke on you. Right?
Yeah. So I called the admissions office. The guy said, "You've made a mistake." And the lady goes, "No, I assure you there's been no mistake." There's no way. I go, "Look, I had this interview with this guy named Dean Curry, and he told me you don't take my kind." And she said, "His name's not Dean Curry. He is Dean Curry. He's the dean of admissions." and he recommended you. So the irony is that Harvard was actually way easier for me than Purdue was. Engineering for me was so hard. Okay, so why do I bring that up? Because in those two programs, I learned a lot about leadership, about management, about strategy, about problem solving that have been helpful as a coach and as a person on your team and a consultant and all that kind of thing. But I really brought that whole story up about Dean Curry to talk about this idea of leaping. When I became a Christian while I was in grad school and was part of what we affectionately call the faith camp, which was basically an excessively legalistic, highly dysfunctional, charismatic word of faith church with a heavy holiness emphasis. We were King James only. I memorized my Bible. I was constantly fasting, couldn't fast often enough, couldn't give up enough worldly things, pursuits, quickly enough, and all this kind of thing. We were trying to earn God's favor. And for those of us who grew up in households where we were always laboring to earn our parents' favor, like I did, it was a perfect setup for me to relate to God in that way. So we were kind of in the name it and claim it headspace of Christianity at the time. And I remember a couple stories just to show you how cracked I was. So I had this business, and I would provide lumber for builders and architects, for home builders, and they were these hewn barn beams and barn siding from Indiana, all these rural areas where I was in school, so it was easy to do. Could negotiate, buy the barn wood, sell it to some architect or home builder, and then drive it up to Detroit, and they'd put it in these nice suburban homes. And so I was usually very diligent to go out and do the research and check all the quality of the wood before and measure it and make sure I had everything right. I got sloppy and landed an order, a good size order for ceiling beams and a mantelpiece that were walnut. And I'd found an ad. I'd run ads in the rural papers and found a farmer that had these beams and they were the right dimension, all that. So I went out to get it, and they were laying in the mud, and the beams were completely rotted. They were bug infested and rotted. But I had prayed that morning and claimed that even though I hadn't done my homework and I had been lazy and hadn't been thorough, that God was going to provide me with the wood, the beams that I needed for this project. And so I claimed it. And so I said, well, God, you're going to provide it for me somehow. And so I started driving back, driving the U-Haul up toward Detroit where my customer was. And almost immediately I saw barn beams for sale. Thank you, Jesus. Here it is. I pulled over, completely the wrong thing, the wrong kind of wood, the wrong size, the wrong shape. That won't work. But you can do it, God, because I mean, immediately there was this sign, right? Like barn beams for sale. So I'm driving the whole way, and I'm praying like crazy, and I'm getting closer and closer to my destination, of course, and I'm not seeing anything. The sun's starting to go down. It's getting dark, and I see a barn off to the side of the freeway with no siding. It's just the beams. I'm standing there, right? And I'm like, there it is. Thank God. So I get lost trying to find the place. I finally find the place. I drive in to the driveway to this house, and I don't notice that their power line is draped down like this from a power pole to their house. And the truck, the U-Haul, catches the power line, snaps it off their house.
Oh, no.
And I go up to the door, I knock on the door, I'm going to go, and I got like $20 to my name, so I got a $20 bill. Anyway, so I'm going to apologize. Well, nobody's home. So not only can I not explain what I've just done to their power, but I can't ask about the barn beams. So obviously I'm not going to knock the barn down, And so I tie a $20 bill to the dangling end of this power
line,
and I lay it on their front porch and I leave. So I decide, well, God can do creative miracles. He can. He can create eyes where there was no eye in the socket. And I believe in healing. I believe that God can do miracles. And so I'm driving the U-Haul, listening for the sound of the beams as I go over a bump. Hear a thump thump in the back of the truck, right? I don't hear anything. I'm like, oh no, it's not going to happen. Oh God, forgive me. Forgive me. I'm trusting you, God. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You're going to do it. So I drive all the way to their house to make the delivery.
with nothing
in the back of the truck except faith. Right?
You got a lot of faith.
Oh, man, I get out of the cab and I go, God, if you don't come through, I'm going to look like such an idiot right now. So I go up to ring the doorbell, get the family. Where do you want the beams? I didn't say, I got your beams. I said, where do you want them? They said, just put them between the street and the sidewalk, right there on the grass. I go, okay, fine, great. So I walk out to the back of the truck, flip the thing up, swing it open, empty. And they go, where are they? And I go, well, I'll get them for you. I'll be back like next weekend. So that's Mr. Trust God and Leap. The willingness to look like an idiot, and that's clearly was an idiotic thing. Because I'm willing to trust him, take him at his word. And if you think about the conversation that we've already had in this series about having a way of being that looks like calm confidence.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's completely anchored in the trustworthiness of God and our clarity that that's why. This is not mind over matter. This is not talk yourself, into being calm and confident. This is not read a book about non-anxious presence and imagine that you're that. Yeah. This is actually relying on the most reliable being who's ever existed.
And Kirk, I have to say, I absolutely love that testimony. And I experience you that way as you play on our team. I think that I have personally noticed that there is that calm confidence about you, specifically and especially when you're waiting in faith for God to show up in some way. And it affects me because I don't. And I look yet because I am walking into that. You are so far away that I'm just gauging you in the distance in that. And just when I watch the way that you walk, if our team has got some project we want to do, you say, I'll ask some donors. And it's just, there's just a different sort of calm confidence and faith that God is going to show up because there is a real trust that you have in him, that he's got this, and then you leap. And it's just, watching you do that and act like you do and walk the way that you walk, comfortable in your own skin, doing things that would make me very uncomfortable in mine.
Yeah. Well.
The dissonance is just so provoking to me. I don't know if you guys experienced that. I definitely have. You think?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Is this a question?
I missed the question. I mean, it was a question. I thought it was rhetorical.
He was snapping. I don't blame you, bro.
I want to let you know that if you're enjoying this, there's more to discover. You can dive deeper into these ideas, connect with our team, and get resources to help you bring courageous conversations into your own space and onto your own team. Interested? Click the link in the first line of the description below to get started.